Welcome to Beat the Odds for the NFL Divisional Round. I'm Pat Mayo, joined by Matt O'Leary and John Hyslop, breaking down each of the games, plus Slop's prop towards the end of the show. Additionally, last week's winner of the Peyton Manning autograph jersey will be revealed towards the end of this show. If you want to get into a draw for this week's giveaway, it's super easy. Smash a like to this episode, subscribe to Odds Checker US, and in the comment section, leave your best bet. This week's giveaway is an autographed Josh Allen helmet. I might actually try to get into this. I'll just go leave a comment. You're going to find out what my favorite bets are anyway, but I want to win this Josh Allen helmet against all you guys. Although I would fear, Matt, that it would look rigged if I won.
It may, but we might have to make an exception. That sounds like a pretty nice prize there.
Yeah, so again, tune into the end of the show to see who won the Peyton Manning jersey. In theory, it could be you or me. It wasn't me because I didn't make the comment because I didn't want to seem like the draw was biased. But anyone who entered last week, you'll find out if you were the winner towards the end of the show. Let's jump into this one right away, though, John. We're going to start off with the first game of the week. It's Cincinnati at Tennessee. Tennessee coming off the bye. They're favored by 3.5 at home. The over-under is, it's going to be, here's the thing with the over-under this week. Everyone wants to bet the over in this game. However, the unders for Tennessee against playoff teams so far this year are 5-2. Do you think this is going to be a low-scoring or high-scoring game?
I'm taking over bets because
they're fun.
It's the playoffs. Yeah, there's no reason to take the under. Life's just too short. But in this one, though, I'm going to take Joe Burrow, 300-plus passing yards, plus 132. I normally don't do quarterback player props just because I can never really figure out the game script. Like you got to hit the game script if you want to take one of these overs. But I think he could end up throwing the ball 40 times this game just because, to be honest with you, I think they'll play from behind. We don't have any weather issues. Every time he's thrown the ball 40-plus times, he's gone over 300, except for once, and that time he went like 282. So, I mean, it's not like he wasn't close. The guy just went for like 400 yards against the Chiefs, and he didn't throw it 40 times. So, I mean, he's legit. Now he's getting the Titans defense, who they can't cover receivers. I think 6 teams have given up more passing yards than them on the season, which is not good. They've given up 300 yards to Davis Mills, Jimmy Garoppolo, Mac Jones went for 300. Trevor Siemian went 298 against them. Tua went for 205. That's like 350 for a normal quarterback. So I think you got to do this. If you want to, you could spice it up a little bit on FanDuel. 325 plus, that's plus 220. 350 plus, if you want to get wild, it's plus 370. It's the first game of the weekend. So if it doesn't hit, you always got time to get your money back.
Well, Matt, I'm looking at DK right now on DraftKings. 47.5 is the over-under. How do you read this game? Because it felt like a lot of people wanted to dismiss Tennessee as the 1 seed. Oh, they're really not that good. They kind of backdoored their way and lucked into having the number 1 seed by playing in that awful division and beating the Colts twice, really propelling them up. But they also beat the Bills. They beat Kansas City. They've been good all year long. And now the narrative has shifted. Derrick Henry is going to be back. A.J. Brown is going to be at 100%. Looks like Julio is going to be at 100%. And now everyone just wants to back Tennessee. I feel like 3.5 is too much. I think that Cincinnati might actually be better than Tennessee. I don't know if they win the game outright, but I like the plus 3.5.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I'm taking the Bengals plus 3.5. That's my pick. I think they could win the game outright, and getting the extra half point there is just golden for me. I love it. The Bengals are 5-0 against the spread in their last 5. Derrick Henry hasn't played. I mean, you mentioned he's coming back. He hasn't played since Halloween. So how healthy is he really going to be, and how much of an impact is he going to be in this game? I'm worried if they're going to try to, force feed him the ball, and who knows what kind of level his health is going to be at after being out for that long. And if it gets into Ryan Tannehill having to throw to keep up in this game with Joe Burrow, then it's over. I don't trust Ryan Tannehill as far as I can throw him in terms of trying to, get a team back in a game. I like the Bengals a lot in this spot. I agree. I think Tennessee's a little bit of a fraudulent number 1 seed. Someone's going to get upset this week, and I think it's Tennessee.
Yeah, the issue is I actually like a lot of the underdogs this week, so I got to pick my spots wisely because I really don't think that all 4 of them are going to win outright. So I need to pick my spots carefully against the spread. For in terms of props in this game, there are 2 that I actually do like. When Tennessee has had the collection of all 3 of those skill position players healthy so far this year, Brown, Julio, and Derrick Henry, and we don't know how healthy Derrick Henry is actually going to be. I mean, guy's coming off a broken foot in his first game back. I don't know if that means he's 100% effective right away. But either way, the presence of those 3 guys on the field, Tannehill's rushing prop in this game is 14.5. And he has gone well over that number in the 4 or 5 games when all 3 of those guys have been healthy on the field. So I do like the over on that. Tannehill anytime touchdown is 3-1. Tannehill first touchdown is 18-1. I think that those are all live plays. But I built the same game parlay over on DraftKings. So I want to run this by you guys. See what you think. Cincinnati plus 3.5. Jamar Chase over 64.5 receiving yards. He's absolutely torched all the playoff teams that made the playoffs so far this season. That's where he's done all of his best work. And then Ryan Tannehill over 13 rushing yards. The line is set at 14.5. It's 75.5 for Jamar Chase. We're getting these a little bit lower than the actual props. Put those 3 together, you got plus 450 on your hands. And I think that actually plays itself into the game flow, which I'm expecting here. So if I think Cincinnati's going to cover, they're going to score points. They'll probably do it through at least Chase, in bulk through the air. And then on the other side, if Tennessee does fall behind a lot, it's going to take away their running game in the pound through the tackles. But then Tannehill might start taking off all of a sudden to get to 13 yards. So I think that these 3 correlate pretty well. And if I'm ever going to play a same game parlay, that's the only thing that I want. Can I correlate my plays together? I think that these 3 fit pretty well.
Usually you're not going to get plus 450 on something like that too. So that's nice.
I love the value. I agree.
I 3 legs.
Yeah, I've had a lot of I usually when people play these same game parlays, and I've fell victim of this too. That I just want I want 8 legs of this parlay and try to put them all together because I wanted to pay 75-1. Like I think I gave out 3 on the show last week. They all ended up hitting because they were all reasonable same game parlays. Like even John, you and I were speaking after the show when you told me that DraftKings released the line for Elijah Mitchell rushing attempts. I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'll put Elijah Mitchell rushing attempts with Elijah Mitchell over rushing yards. Put those together. It paid like plus 220. Like there was a correlated thing. Yeah. One of them hit, the other one was going to hit.
Exactly. And the attempts went way over too. I mean, I think he ended up with like 27. I think the number was 19.5.
Yeah, he had 16 in the first half. The final series of the first half was just glorious because Dallas kept using their timeouts and San Francisco wanted to get out to get to the half. So it was just like, turn around, Mitchell, turn around, Mitchell, turn around, Mitchell. All right, here we go. Those were 3 ones that we shouldn't have got. Now we got them. So we're well on way with this. So if you're going to play a same game parlay, try to find the ones that you can correlate together, and then you get your plus money. So you really only need one outcome to hit, and then all 3 legs of your sides end up hitting. So be cognizant of that as we move forward. Next game, the other Saturday game, we have San Francisco and Green Bay. Right now, Green Bay at home favored by 6 points coming off the bye week. Last week, San Francisco was everyone's favorite money line upset, everyone's favorite spread play, and it hit. Do you think that people are going to go back to San Francisco this week, Matt?
I do. I'm very tempted to go with them against the spread. I don't think I like them money line, but getting the 5.5 or 6 points, I think you could sell me on that. The play that I like in this game, and I'm going to be that guy. I'm sorry, but I'm taking the under here at 47.5. I know last game 30-28. I'm not a math guy, but that's a lot more than 47.5. But wind chill, single digits. The unders come in 5 of the last 6 for the 49ers. I think both defenses are playing better than what they were earlier in the year. I think we see a little bit of a lower scoring close game, like a 24-20 kind of a game. So I like the under a lot, especially at 47.5. I don't know. That might not be a popular play, but I'm riding with it.
I always worry about unders in games, especially cold weather games. And I think that we had this discussion on last week's show about the Bills and Patriots game, that if there was no wind, it doesn't really matter how cold it ends up getting unless it's a historic frigid conditions, like we saw with the Vikings Seahawks game one time, where I think it was like minus 34 degrees or something insane like that. Like if there's no wind, it's not really going to affect the passing as much. But I do think that the Niners most definitely want to run the ball. I think this really boils down to, and it's going to be difficult to figure out what's going on in terms of the over or the under here because of the injuries that we're seeing. Like, do we know if Nick Bosa is going to play? Like right now, it's kind of leaning like, no, he's not going to play. Jimmy G has a shoulder injury and a thumb injury now. Not that he could I would say that not that he could play worse, not that he played poorly last week, but just you get that Jimmy G decision making. All of a sudden, like, oh my God, this is now a game again. But ideally, San Francisco just wants to run the ball as many times as possible, milk that clock, try to keep the scoring down. And I think from the Green Bay side of the ball, like Rodgers is going to make his big plays. And there's no line released on A.J. Dillon yet, but I've been searching around. I have found at Prize Picks, weirdly enough, with their over-under fantasy props, it's 41.5. Like, I think we see a heavy dose of A.J. Dillon because, like what you mentioned, Matt, in these frigid conditions, that I feel like even with a banged-up Aaron Jones, even if all things were equal and everyone was healthy, if they want their banger and they're playing with the lead, John, that's going to be A.J. Dillon.
I like that too. I'm going to go on the other side for a rushing prop, though. Deebo Samuel over 34.5. That's minus 115 at BetMGM. It was at FanDuel. They had those escalators. 40 plus was going to get you plus money, so those all kind of got ruined. But the 34.5 is definitely still in play. It's kind of crazy to think that you're going to take a receiver's rushing yards on a team that's a 6-point dog on the road. But for one, the 49ers were down 17-3 against the Rams, and they still ran the ball. I mean, he got 8 carries that game. He got 10 carries last week. So he's not only become a running back in the last 9 weeks, but he's become more of a running back recently too. Jimmy G's hurt. I mean, his shoulder is jacked up. His thumb's jacked up. If you want to get Deebo the ball, you're going to have to turn around and hand it to him. That's what I think. I think Mitchell's going to get his, but Deebo is the one that I like the most just because it is such a low number, and he can get this on one carry. I mean, he's electric. So on the other side of this, though, is that the Green Bay rushing defense, they're terrible. They're not that good. They're about as fake as can be, but just because you look at their numbers – I think only like 5 or 6 teams have given up less rushing yards in the season, but only 2 teams have seen fewer rushing attempts. Like they play from ahead, but the 49ers will still run the ball on you even if they're down 2 touchdowns. So I don't know. I mean, the Packers rush defense gives up like, I think in the last 3 games, like 5 or 5.6, 5.7 yards per carry. That's going to be a big problem for them. And I don't know. I'll take Deebo.
Yeah, I like that Deebo number as well. 34.5 seems pretty reasonable for the way that they use him, especially coupled with the Jimmy G scenario where you probably can't push the ball down the field all that much. I do think that the numbers with the Packers run defense is a little bit skewed because they gave up almost 9 yards per carry to the Browns, but the Browns decided not to run the ball until they were down by 21, facing a prevent defense. So sometimes those numbers, although they face, like you said, far fewer rushing attempts than most teams, that when teams do decide to run on them, it's usually against like a 6-man box. Mm-hmm. And that's not going to be the case this week. I think Green Bay knows, hey, there's one way San Francisco beats us. It's running all over us. Let's just pile up as many bodies as close to the line of scrimmage as possible.
I think Shanahan kind of negates that just because he's so creative that, I mean, you can know it's coming and still get beat by it.
Maybe, but we saw even last week against Dallas, like Shanahan scripted a great first 2 series, then their offense looked like garbage afterwards.
Yeah, that's Jimmy, though. I blame everything on Jimmy. So anything that bad happens to the 49ers is all Jimmy. No Deebo, no Elijah Mitchell, no Kittle, all Jimmy. Fair enough, right?
Yeah, well, Matt, when you look at San Francisco, they're 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 to close the year, but then the Packers have been the best spread team all year. They're 7-1 at home, and they never really ask the Packers to cover that big of a number. It's sort of like the anti-Chiefs, where the Chiefs have this really terrible spread record because they're favored by 13 points every single week, where the Packers, despite winning all their games and winning close games, the spread is never really outrageous. Do you think that gets to a point where like 6 is too much? Because I can't quite gauge where the money is going to come in on this side of the game. Like, do you see this? If Jimmy G doesn't end up playing, obviously the spread is going to change. Let's say we go into the game, no Bosa, Jimmy's playing, Warner's playing, everything's fine, no Jair Alexander for the Packers. That's the mentality that we go in with. Do you think this could balloon up to 7? Do you think it goes back the other way? Or do you think 6 is where it stays?
I think 6 is a pretty good number. I think it hangs right around there. And honestly, I could see people backing, the 49ers at that number. It was a close game the last time these two teams played. San Francisco probably should have won the game. It was a last-second field goal that gave the Packers the win. Different because it's in Lambeau this time. I get that. And, the Packers, as you said, they were great against the spread. I think 7-1 at home. But it's just, I think a lot of people are going to ride on the momentum from last week and just towards the end of the regular season too with this 49ers team. I think a lot of people like how they've been playing. Shanahan's a very popular coach. People want to back him. And I don't know, the Packers, they usually, tend to find ways to lose in the playoffs. Usually it's the next round in the championship game, but maybe people want to hop on early. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of 49ers backers this week.
I have some 49ers futures that I would like to see them win, but I don't have the utmost confidence that they're going to go into Lambeau and get it done. Another point to your under as well. These are two very slow-paced teams. They take up a lot of time in between plays. It's not like they're pushing the pace. And generally speaking, that leads to unders. Obviously not 100% of the time, or people will just be printing money over and over. But that's another tip in the cap of the under coming through on 47 in this game. Let's move to Sunday. Sunday, we got the Rams and Bucks starting thing off. I feel like we'll get to the later game, obviously last, and there's sort of a recency bias built in with Buffalo that I'm not necessarily buying in terms of the spread. I think this spread is being affected by recency bias because 3 doesn't seem like enough for the Bucks. And there's this weird narrative for the Buccaneers right now that they're just not actually any good, and the Rams are secretly like the best team in football. But people only seem to think that because they made Kyler Murray look like absolute trash on Monday. Kyler played about as bad of a game as he has ever played. Here's a spoiler. That's not happening with Tom Brady this week. I love the Bucks -3 in this spot. The Bucks are awesome at home so far this season. The Rams are not a disaster on the road, but they're not good on the road. They have some bad losses on the road so far this season, and you're not really asking the Bucks to win by all that much. And I feel like I'm in the wide minority on this one, John, that it seems like there's just a lot of Rams backers out there.
Well, lucky for you that the Rams are frauds. So that helps. That's going to go a long way. Just because, they beat the Cardinals, but we talked about last week. That was the fraud bowl. Like, both of these teams are going to be gone after this week, and this is what's going to happen is I think the Bucs are going to beat them. I'm going to take Mike Evans, 80-plus receiving yards, plus 136. That's on FanDuel. If you want, you could do the 90-plus, though. That's plus 198. And the 100-plus is like plus 280. So, again, that's a great way to start your Sunday since you got another game after it. Here's the thing. I don't think that the game script's really going to matter in this one because Brady threw the ball 37 times last week, and they were killing the Eagles. So he should throw it 40-plus times. In the last 2 weeks, Evans has been targeted 17 times. So, he is pretty much the alpha now. He's the one that Brady trusts. He's gone over 80 yards in both of those last 2 weeks. I don't think that they're going to be able to just sit on the ball at any point in this one, though, playing the Rams. The Rams are good enough on offense to put points on them. The thing is, though, the Rams defense, they can't cover receivers. They've given up the 4th most receiving yards to the wideout position this season, and Evans already has gone 8 for $106 on him earlier in the year, and that was when Godwin was healthy. So for me, for my money, I wouldn't mind watching Mike Evans go for $150.
I think through attrition, maybe he can get there. But, Matt, I would worry that the Rams assess this offense and say, hey, you have 2 main threats to beat us here. And Leonard Fournette might be back in this game too, but I'm not really sweating the Bucs backfield. I feel like they can throw anyone back there, and it's going to have the same outcome. So you have Gronk and you have Evans, and then you have one elite cover corner on the other side. Do you fear that Jalen Ramsey just shadows Mike Evans, takes him out of the game, and forces Perriman and Tyler Johnson and Gronk and Cyril Grayson, who looks like he's returning, to come and try to beat you in this game?
I don't think so. I don't think he's shadowed really all year. The way they use him, they kind of move him around like a chess piece. But, everyone knows Mike Evans is on the team now. You know what I mean? It's not like it's a secret. It's not his first game. Antonio Brown was there, Godwin was there, and then Evans. That was different, but we've seen a couple weeks now where they've had opportunities to take Evans out, and no one can. Like that's the problem with elite guys, like, the alphas of the wide receivers. Sometimes you just can't take him out. And plus, Brady will throw him open anyways. Like, he's not afraid to throw a jump ball or a back shoulder, so that also helps too.
I agree with that too, by the way. I don't think Ramsey shadows him. He hasn't really done that a lot this year anyway. So that's not an issue. I actually like John's play a lot there. I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction with mine, but it kind of plays into what we're talking about in both of these offense and how they like to throw the ball. I'm taking Matthew Stafford's over at 280.5 at minus 115.
Would that be 280 passing yards or 280 interceptions?
Fair. I'm taking the passing yards because a few reasons. We talked about not being a math guy early on, but I'm going to try to give some more math. Okay. He went for 343 the last time these two teams played. He went for 8 yards per attempt on the year. So he would just need 35 passing attempts to get to this number. And the Bucs defense, while they're better against the run, against the pass, not so great. They've allowed the most passing attempts against. So I think we're going to see this game play into a little bit of a shootout. I like the Bucs. I think they win the game, but you could get the Rams playing from behind. You can get the Rams just trying to throw the ball more in general because that's what the Buccaneers' weakness is on defense. So I think Stafford comes out chucking it, and maybe he does throw some interceptions, but that's
good. Yeah, that's great for the over in the passing yards. It's almost like the self-fulfilling prophecy of fantasy points a lot of times, like the Jameis Winston effect is that Jameis is going to score you minus 4 points in the first quarter, but because he's put himself in a hole by 21 points, he can only throw for the rest of the game, and then his numbers end up there. Stafford's very much the same way.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my logic with the play is that they might be down or just game script wise in general, they like to throw the ball. So
yeah, I mean, I would take the Bucs -3. You might be able, maybe even by kickoff, you might be able to catch a -2.5 because I do think that there's a lot of Rams money coming in. So Bucs -2.5, and I think the over hits. Like we talk about Green Bay and San Francisco being two bottom 10 pace teams. Well, the Bucs and the Rams are two top 10 in terms of pace, and both teams wildly throw over expectation of game script, with the Bucs being the most pass happy team in the league. And listen, incompletion stop the clock. It's not rocket science to figure this out, that they can take as much time as they want in between plays. But when you have two teams that don't love running the ball, it's just going to lead to a lot of clock stoppage. It's going to lead to more plays, and more plays generally lead to more points. So I'd go the over and the Bucs individually, maybe even chuck them together if you want to. Final game. This is the one that I have the strongest take on. I want to get your guys' opinion on this. So we have the Bills going into Kansas City. The Bills are 2-point underdogs. Kansas City favored. A huge over-under in this game of 54.5 right now. I think there's a bunch of ways you can play it. I like the Josh Allen over 51.5 rushing yards. I think that's going to be very much in play. We've seen playoff Josh Allen not have any regard for his body. He's just going to take off as much as possible if any lane is there for him. Even him scoring in any time touchdown, much like Ryan Tannehill in the first game, I think is in play. But I love the Bills in this game. And a lot of people will say, oh, the spread is under a field goal because of recency bias. Oh, I can't believe I get to bet Patrick Mahomes by less than a field goal. I feel like this line is made for the Chiefs team from last year's playoffs or 2 years ago. It has not factored in what this year's Chiefs team is. And honestly, I think the Bills are a better team top to bottom.
I agree with that. I like the Bills a lot too. That would probably be my play against the spread, or even straight up money line.
Here's the problem. The +2 is important here, I think, because if the Bills are down by 7 with 3 seconds left in the game and they score a touchdown, they're going for 2. So then you're in a coin flip situation. I'd rather just have the 2 points.
Okay. You might have walked me off the ledge a little bit there. I might just get back on against the spread. But for my play, I'm going to take the big over here at 54.5. I think a lot of people are, hyping this game up as, oh, this should be the AFC Championship game. Maybe it's the game of the year. Well, I'm buying into the hype. I am all about it. The Kansas City over has hit 6 games in a row. Buffalo, 5 of 7 overs on their road in their last 7 games. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think both teams could push 30 points in this game. And once again, we're going to go back to the math. 30 and 30 is 60. So
every day it is.
Yes. There we go.
Yeah, John, the Bills, since the beginning of last year in games that have had a total of 50 or more points, the over has hit 9 of 11 times in those games.
I think it's going to hit again. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes 300-plus passing yards, plus 140. You could do 325 at plus 250. But, I mean, let's just be safe. 300's fine. It's kind of a revenge spot for him. I mean, they got beat earlier this season, and all the talk was Mahomes is washed, or not washed, but just he's not good anymore, all that kind of stuff. He still went for 272 against the Bills. That's when they had Tre'Davious White, too. Changes a lot that he's not on the field. I don't know how much, but I think it does. Buffalo's got good pass defense numbers, but when you look at their schedule, they haven't played anybody. They haven't played one capable quarterback since week 14. That was Tom Brady. He put up 360 on them. I don't have a take on either side here. I mean, this game is probably going to be as good as it gets. Buffalo, I couldn't imagine either one of these teams losing, but someone's going to have to. So in that case, I think it's just crazy that we get to take Mahomes in a shootout over 300 yards, which, I mean, that just feels like stealing.
The move here is going to be, because I'm with you. I like the over in this spot too, and I would be hard pressed to find anyone who likes the under in this game. So under is probably the bet, and you probably want to bet the under on Allen and Mahomes passing yards, and over like Devin Singletary rushing yards, or Damian Williams rushing yards, or if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back, over that. We're just going to be sitting there being like, all they're doing is running the ball. What is going on?
3-0 game at halftime.
Yeah. I think if you wanted to like try to take a piece of this game somewhere, like we all know Kansas City starts off these games pretty slowly, stupid turnovers at the beginning of the game. Like Bills first half or first quarter money line might end up being a play here for me. I'm trying to parse that out in my mind. Looking at it right now, the first quarter Bills to win, it's even money. Don't mind that. I think the Bills can win the first half. I mean, if they don't win the first half in this game, it feels like they're absolutely cooked, because that's when you can really get the Chiefs.
I think that's what you just said is literally why I like the Mahomes play so much, because the Bills are the perfect opponent for Kansas City. They're psychopaths. Like they'll full on try and, beat you in the first quarter, like meaning like put 21 up early. So they're the perfect team just to get it going. You know what I mean? They're not going to sit there like Pittsburgh and kind of allow this slow plotting game to just break out. Like I think the Bills are going to score early. And again, if they get ahead, it's going to be just a show. They're going to run out of fireworks again in Kansas City.
All right. Well, we still have the winner to give away of the Peyton Manning autographed jersey from last week. But Matt, I did want to ask you if you had any more final thoughts about this slate.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to Sunday. I think that's going to be the two best games of the weekend, and I think we see a lot of points on both sides.
All right. Well, John, I don't want to let you get out of here just yet, because we need to go to you to figure out who is Slop's prop.
This one's going to be fun. For one, you can the escalators on FanDuel are going to be what I'm going to use again. But Jamar Chase, 100-plus yards, receiving yards, plus 178. You can go $110 for plus 250. You could even go 125 for, I think, plus 370. If you want to just, I don't know, you want to do that just because, look, I think he can literally put up $150, $160. He's Joe Burrow's security blanket. And like we talked about earlier, I think Burrows is going to throw the ball quite a bit. I mean, I think they're going to get behind. The last 3 weeks, in the last 3 games that actually mattered, Chase has gone over 100 in all 3 of them. The time he didn't was week 18 when they weren't even playing. So when you got an opponent like the Titans, they give up the receiving yards to the receivers. Like they cannot cover the receivers. I think only one other team gave up more receptions and one other team gave up more receiving yards to the receiver position. So once, it's time to start throwing the ball around, it's going to go one place, I think, Jamar Chase. I mean, I like T. Higgins. I like Tyler Boyd, but there's just something between Burrows and Chase that I don't see why he takes his eyes off him. I mean, the guy's been targeted 12 times last week, 10 times another week before. I mean, like every week it's double-digit targets. How does he not get to 100?
All right. I mean, you sold me. Plus, he's absolutely murdered the current playoff team so far this season against in the games against playoff teams so far this year. I believe he's 7 touchdowns and 912 yards. So pretty good on Jamar Chase if that's what we're looking for. That was Slop's prop. I want to remind everyone out there again, if you want to get into that draw for the Josh Allen autographed helmet, all you need to do is smash a like to the episode, sub to the Odds Checker US YouTube page, and leave your best bet down in the comment. We need to reveal the winner from last week's show live. Well, I guess he's not live, but he's in Indiana, presumably, at least according to him. Zach White won the Peyton Manning autograph jersey. Congratulations, Zach. All you need to do, you're on the clock here. You got 72 hours to reach out to Odds Checker US on Twitter to claim your prize. If not, I guess we're going back into the prize pool and release 2 winners for next week for both the Josh Allen and Peyton Manning jersey. But Zach, you have won that Peyton Manning jersey again. Go to Twitter in the next 72 hours, Odds Checker US on Twitter, and go claim your prize. Congratulations again on the big win. That will do it on the show this week. For John, for Matt, I'm Pat Mayo. We'll see you for the conference championship.